The ocean has always been a place of wonder. It hides secrets older than time, stories whispered through the waves, and mysteries so deep they defy all logic. But there's one part of the ocean that seems alive in its silence, a stretch of blue where ships vanish, planes disappear, and logic goes dark. This is the Bermuda Triangle, a name that still makes even the most experienced sailor glance nervously at the horizon. Imagine sailing across crystal waters, the sun blazing high, radio crackling softly with routine chatter, and then, suddenly, nothing. No sound, no response, just static. The coordinates stay the same, but the vessel is gone. Forever. For decades, this region of the Atlantic has swallowed thousands without warning. It stretches roughly between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, forming a triangle over 1 million square miles of deep ocean, a place both stunning and sinister. Some call it the Devil's Triangle. Others call it the graveyard of the Atlantic. But to those who've encountered it, it's something else entirely. An invisible force that doesn't forgive curiosity. The mystery began long before modern headlines. The earliest records date back to the time of explorers, the first men who dared to cross the Atlantic. Christopher Columbus, on his voyage in 1492, noted strange lights dancing on the horizon and compasses that spun wildly for no reason. He described it in his log as a great flame of fire that crashed into the sea. Today, we might call that a meteor. But to the men aboard, it was something far more frightening, a sign from the unknown. Centuries passed, and sailors told stories of phantom ships and ghostly lights flickering beneath the waves. But the world truly began to notice in the 20th century. The first major case that drew global attention happened in December 1945. It was known as Flight 19. 5 U.S. Navy bombers, experienced pilots on a routine training mission, took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The weather was calm, visibility was good. But halfway through the exercise, something went wrong. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, radioed back with confusion in his voice. "We can't find west. Everything looks strange. Even the ocean doesn't look right." Minutes later, his transmission grew more frantic. "We can't be sure where we are. The compass is spinning. We can't find land." Those were among his final words. The signal faded into static. The 5 planes disappeared without a trace. Not a single piece of wreckage was ever found. A rescue plane was sent to look for them. It vanished, too. 6 planes, 27 men, gone into thin air. The U.S. Navy investigation simply listed the case as cause unknown. And that's when the Bermuda Triangle became legend. In the years that followed, the disappearances continued. Commercial ships, private yachts, and even modern jets, each vanished with terrifying silence. Reports came from survivors, too. Pilots spoke of sudden bursts of magnetic interference, of seeing walls of fog appear out of nowhere. Some said their instruments went haywire, clocks stopped ticking, and compasses refused to point north. Others described time itself slowing down, like being pulled into a world where physics didn't quite work. The triangle became a symbol of nature, S hidden power, and humanity, S smallness in the face of it. Scientists tried to explain it away with logic. They blamed storms, methane gas, and human error. But every theory seemed to crumble when faced with the sheer number of cases and the precision of the vanishings. To those who have lost loved ones here, the Bermuda Triangle isn't a theory. It's a wound. And every new disappearance is like a whisper from the ocean itself, calling us to look deeper. But what is it really? Is it a natural phenomenon, a geographical anomaly, or something far beyond human understanding? To uncover the truth, we have to journey back in time, to an era when the ocean was the edge of the world. The Atlantic was once seen as a place where monsters lived, where ships sailed too far and simply fell off the map. This fear wasn't born of fantasy. It came from real accounts. Ancient sailors spoke of glowing waters that seemed alive. They saw compasses fail and stars fade behind invisible clouds. Many returned home forever changed, unable to explain what they'd seen. Could these early tales be the beginnings of the Bermuda Triangle's legend? Even modern records suggest that strange things have always happened in this region. The Gulf Stream, a powerful ocean current, runs straight through it. It's fast, unpredictable, and can move debris hundreds of miles in hours. That means even a small accident can erase all evidence before anyone arrives. Add to that the region's violent weather patterns, hurricanes, tropical storms, waterspouts, and you have one of the most dangerous natural environments on Earth. But then there are the cases that defy even these explanations. Planes vanishing in clear skies, ships disappearing in calm seas, engines stopping mid-flight with no reason at all. Those are the stories that keep the mystery alive, and they the ones we'll dive into next. The Bermuda Triangle doesn't just exist on maps. It lives in the minds of everyone who's ever crossed its path. For every sailor, pilot, or passenger who's entered its boundaries, there's always the same uneasy feeling, the sense of being watched by something deep and unseen. Some say it's superstition. Others say it's the magnetic fields, pulling at the instruments and the mind alike. But if it's all science, why have so many seasoned navigators, men and women trained to trust their equipment, vanished without sending a single distress call? Perhaps somewhere in those deep, dark waters lies a force that doesn't follow the rules of Earth. Imagine the silence after a ship disappears. The families waiting by the docks, staring at empty horizons. The unanswered radio calls. The ocean stretching endlessly, indifferent and calm. That's the true heart of the Bermuda Triangle. It's not just about disappearances. It's about the unanswered question that echoes through time. What really happened? And that's where our journey begins. In the next chapter, we'll travel deeper into the triangle, following the paths of ships and planes that vanished without a trace. We'll look at the patterns, the survivors' stories, and the chilling similarities that connect them all. Because every mystery leaves a trail, and sometimes the smallest clue can reveal the biggest secret. As the decades passed, the Bermuda Triangle became more than a place on a map. It became a question mark carved into the ocean. Every new disappearance seemed to deepen the mystery. Every survivor's story added another layer of disbelief. People began to wonder if something beyond our world was at play, something ancient, hidden beneath those turquoise waves. After the tragedy of Flight 19 in 1945, the Triangle didn't rest. In the years that followed, more cases emerged, each more chilling than the last. One of the most haunting stories came from 1948, when a commercial aircraft called Star Tiger vanished. It was a British South American Airways flight traveling from the Azores to Bermuda. 51 people were on board. The pilot's last message sounded calm, routine. ETA Bermuda, 5 a.m. Then silence. The plane never arrived. No wreckage, no oil slick, nothing. A year later, almost to the day, another aircraft from the same airline, Star Aerial, vanished between Bermuda and Jamaica. Same conditions. Same eerie silence. Investigators searched thousands of square miles. They found no floating debris, no sign of a crash. Both aircraft were newer models, flown by skilled pilots, equipped with advanced instruments for their time. It was as if the sky had simply opened and swallowed them whole. The newspapers called it the Triangle's curse. But among sailors and pilots, a different kind of fear spread, quiet, unspoken. Many began to avoid routes that crossed through the Bermuda region. Some said compasses behaved differently there, spinning in circles or pointing southeast instead of north. Scientists tried to calm the fear by saying it was magnetic deviation, a natural quirk of the Earth's magnetism. But to those who'd seen it happen, it felt like being pulled into another dimension. In 1963, a massive cargo ship called the Marine Sulphur Queen was carrying molten sulfur from Texas to Norfolk, Virginia. The ship radioed once, a brief weather report, and then was never heard from again. 39 men disappeared. When the Coast Guard searched, they found only a few oil drums and life preservers. The ocean gave no answers. One report noted, "It is as if the vessel disintegrated instantly." These were not small boats or inexperienced crews. These were trained professionals, guided by modern equipment, lost under calm skies. The press began calling it the Sea of Lost Souls. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't just a mystery. It was becoming a phenomenon. And then came the witchcraft. On December 22, 1967, a luxury cabin cruiser named Witchcraft left Miami with 2 men aboard. They were experienced seamen, out to enjoy the view of the city lights just a mile offshore. Around 9 p.m., the Coast Guard received a call. One of the men calmly reported that his boat had struck something, but there was no danger. "We'll need a tow," he said. The Coast Guard launched a rescue operation immediately. When they arrived, just 19 minutes later, the boat was gone. No wreckage, no oil slick, not even a floating cushion. They searched hundreds of square miles for days. Nothing. That's when people began to whisper. Maybe the disappearances weren't accidents at all. Maybe they were the result of something hidden deep below, something waiting. Legends grew like coral under the waves. Some claimed there was an ancient city buried there, Atlantis, the mythical civilization said to have sunk into the sea thousands of years ago. According to that theory, the energy fields from Atlantis's lost technology still pulse beneath the ocean floor, disrupting instruments and dragging ships into the deep. It sounded like fantasy, but for those who'd seen compasses spin wildly, it felt strangely possible. Others believed the triangle was a portal, a doorway between worlds. They spoke of electromagnetic vortices that twisted space and time, pulling vessels into parallel dimensions. Even some pilots claimed to have experienced time distortion. One famous account came from Bruce Gernon, a pilot who survived a mysterious encounter in 1970. Gernon and 2 passengers took off from Andros Island in the Bahamas. The weather was clear, but within minutes, a strange cloud formed ahead, perfectly circular like a tunnel in the sky. They flew through it. Inside, lightning flashed around them and the instruments began to malfunction. When they finally emerged, they realized something impossible. The flight had taken a fraction of the expected time. Gernon claimed they had somehow skipped through space. The radar controllers couldn't explain it. There was no storm on record and no scientific reason for what had happened. His story became one of the Triangle AS most famous survival accounts, and one of the most chilling. Because if even part of it was true, it meant the Bermuda Triangle wasn't just swallowing people. It was bending reality itself. But not everyone who entered vanished forever. Some escaped, and what they described was enough to haunt anyone. One crew reported seeing a massive wall of fog rise from the ocean, dense and glowing faintly with light. When they passed through it, their electronics died, and even their watches stopped ticking. When they emerged minutes later, the sky had changed color, and the sea was perfectly calm again, as if nothing had happened. But when they checked the clock, they discovered they'd lost hours of time they couldn't account for. How could so many different people, across decades, report the same eerie phenomena? Magnetic interference, sudden fogs, time gaps, disappearances without debris. There's one more story, one that still gives sailors chills to this day. It happened in 1918, long before Bermuda Triangle was even a term. The USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy cargo ship, was carrying over 300 men and 10,000 tons of ore from Brazil to Baltimore. It never arrived. Not a single distress call. The weather was calm. No enemies nearby. The largest U.S. naval loss outside wartime, and no trace was ever found. The ship simply ceased to exist. The U.S. Navy's final report? Lost without a trace, cause unknown. So many ships, so many planes, so many names etched into the silence of the sea. And yet no pattern that makes sense. No wreckage, no signals, no bodies. Just stories. too many to ignore, too similar to dismiss. By the 1970s, the Bermuda Triangle had captured the imagination of the entire world. Books like The Bermuda Triangle by Charles Berlitz became bestsellers. Documentaries showed terrified witnesses recounting encounters with mysterious fogs and unseen forces. The world was hooked. But behind the spectacle, the real question lingered. What's happening in that stretch of ocean? Are these stories just coincidences, or evidence of something far more profound? Scientists stepped in to investigate. Meteorologists studied the storms. Oceanographers mapped the sea floor. Geologists examined underwater ridges and trenches. And though they found plenty of danger, powerful currents, rogue waves, sudden squalls, nothing explained the vanishings completely. Every time someone thought they had the answer, another case appeared to shatter it. The triangle seemed to play by its own rules. Maybe it was never about one explanation. Maybe the Bermuda Triangle is the meeting point of several deadly forces, nature, physics, and the unknown, converging in one perfect storm of mystery. As night falls over those waters, the ocean looks calm, peaceful, endless. But somewhere below, in the cold and dark, lie the secrets of countless souls who never returned. Their stories echo through the waves, reminding us that for all our technology and knowledge, there are still places the world refuses to reveal. And that's what draws us back, again and again, to look, to wonder, to listen for the whispers from the deep. In the next section, we'll dive beneath the surface, into the scientific explanations and theories that try to pull the curtain off this great oceanic enigma. But be warned, the closer we get to the truth, the stranger it becomes. Because sometimes the explanations are even more mysterious than the mystery itself. For centuries, the Bermuda Triangle has been blamed for things that science can't yet explain. But when a mystery lasts this long, people eventually demand answers. Could there really be something supernatural lurking beneath the waves? Or is the truth hidden within the laws of nature itself? Laws we still don't fully understand? To find out, scientists have spent decades studying this region of ocean. What they have uncovered doesn't erase the mystery, but it does reveal that the Bermuda Triangle is one of the most complex, dangerous, and unpredictable environments on Earth. Let's begin with what we can measure. The triangle lies in one of the busiest maritime zones in the world. Thousands of planes and ships pass through it every year, connecting North America, the Caribbean, and South America. That alone means that statistically, accidents are bound to happen. But there's more to it than traffic. The first major clue lies in the water itself, specifically the Gulf Stream. This powerful ocean current flows like a river within the sea, carrying warm water from the Gulf of Mexico up the Atlantic coast. It moves fast, sometimes over 5 miles per hour, and it can shift without warning. A ship that stalls or sinks in these waters could drift hundreds of miles away before rescuers even start searching. By the time they arrive, all physical evidence could be long gone. The Gulf Stream also affects weather patterns. Sudden storms, rogue waves, and waterspouts are common here. These natural forces can rise out of nowhere, tearing apart ships and small planes in seconds. Pilots have reported skies turning black in an instant, and captains have seen 50-foot waves appear from perfectly calm waters. In one moment, the sea is still. In the next, it's chaos. Meteorologists have long suspected that microbursts, intense downward columns of air, could explain some of the vanishings. A microburst can slam into the ocean with hurricane-level force, creating waves and winds strong enough to destroy an aircraft or capsize a ship. The effect is so sudden that no distress call can be made. But storms alone don't explain everything, especially cases like Flight 19, which vanished under clear skies. So scientists turned their eyes beneath the waves, searching for clues in the ocean floor. What they found was something extraordinary. In the 1980s, researchers discovered vast fields of methane hydrates, frozen gas trapped within the seabed. When these hydrates destabilize, they can release enormous bursts of methane bubbles that rise rapidly through the water. Laboratory experiments show that when methane bubbles mix with seawater, they drastically reduce its density. That means a ship floating on it could lose buoyancy instantly and sink like a stone, without leaving debris on the surface. Could a sudden methane eruption be enough to swallow a cargo vessel whole? Some scientists believe so. Others argue the conditions for such eruptions are too rare to explain so many disappearances. Still, it is one of the few explanations that can cause a massive ship to vanish almost instantly, and silently. Then there's the question of magnetic anomalies. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north align perfectly. That might sound harmless, but to navigators who rely on compasses, it can cause massive confusion. In the days before GPS, even a few degrees of error could send a ship hundreds of miles off course. Some pilots reported their instruments behaving erratically, compasses spinning uncontrollably or freezing altogether. Scientists have found that magnetic fields in this region fluctuate more than usual due to the oceanic crust below. Iron-rich minerals scattered along the seabed create microvariations that might explain some of the compass failures. Still, there's something odd. These magnetic deviations have been mapped, and while they can cause confusion, they shouldn't make entire aircraft or fleets vanish. To explain those, some researchers turned to human factors. The simplest yet most powerful explanation of all. They argue that miscalculations, fuel exhaustion, and disorientation could explain many triangle mysteries. Pilots flying over the ocean often rely heavily on instruments, and when those instruments fail, or even appear to fail, panic sets in. Under stress, even small navigation errors can become fatal. But skeptics argue that such human errors can't explain why wreckage is never found. Planes crash elsewhere in the world all the time, and investigators almost always recover some trace. Yet the triangle remains strangely silent. Then, in the late 20th century, another theory emerged, one rooted in the strange intersection of science and the unknown. Some researchers began studying rogue waves, massive, unpredictable walls of water that can appear from nowhere, towering up to 100 feet high. These waves are now known to exist all over the world, formed when multiple smaller waves combine their energy at the right moment. For centuries, sailors thought they were myths. Today, satellites have captured them. A rogue wave could easily destroy a ship and leave no trace. Its impact sudden, catastrophic, and silent. And the Bermuda Triangle, with its converging ocean currents, may be a perfect breeding ground for them. But what about the aircraft? How could a wave reach the sky? For that, scientists looked into another atmospheric anomaly, electronic fog. This strange glowing mist has been reported by several pilots, including survivors. The theory suggests that electromagnetic fields in the region create clouds of charged particles that can interfere with radio waves and radar. Pilots caught inside this fog experience compass failures, radio silence, and even spatial disorientation. In some experiments, electromagnetic fields have been shown to temporarily disrupt timekeeping devices. This could explain the missing time experienced by survivors like Bruce Jernan, who believed he had flown through a tunnel in the sky. Whether it's time distortion or simple disorientation, the effect is deeply unsettling. And yet, despite decades of research, no single theory fits every case. The triangle remains a puzzle with missing pieces. Some scientists have even questioned whether it exists at all. Statistically, that is. Studies from insurance companies like Lloyd AS of London show that the number of disappearances in the Bermuda region isn't significantly higher than in any other heavily traveled part of the ocean. If that's true, maybe the mystery lies not in nature, but in human imagination. The stories we tell amplify coincidence into legend, but that explanation doesn't satisfy everyone. If the triangle is just a myth, why do even modern aircraft with advanced GPS occasionally report strange readings there? Why do compass errors persist in the same zones charted centuries ago? Maybe the answer lies somewhere between science and myth, where reality bends just enough to let the impossible slip through. In 2009, oceanographers mapped part of the Atlantic floor near the Triangle and found enormous underwater craters. Evidence of past methane explosions, yes, but also signs of seismic instability. Small undersea earthquakes could easily trigger violent gas releases or sudden water column shifts. Combine that with storms, magnetic variance, and human error, and the Bermuda Triangle becomes a perfect storm of coincidences that feel supernatural. But science, no matter how thorough, can't measure fear. It can't explain why countless people report feeling uneasy when crossing those waters, or why pilots insist their compasses behave strangely even today. Perhaps there's something about the human mind, something ancient, that recognizes danger before data does. In that way, the Bermuda Triangle may be less about what happens and more about how we perceive it. A mirror reflecting our deepest fears of the unknown: isolation, loss, and the possibility that there are still places in the world where our rules don't apply. Even with satellites, sonar, and advanced radar, the ocean keeps its secrets well. For every explanation we create, the sea quietly swallows another clue. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the Bermuda Triangle endures because it reminds us that mystery still exists, that in an age of certainty there are still shadows science hasn't reached. But as we peer into those shadows, one question remains. If the Bermuda Triangle isn't supernatural, why do its mysteries feel so human? Because behind every lost ship, every missing plane, and every unanswered radio call, there's a story of hope, fear, courage, and the infinite pull of the unknown. In our final section, we'll return to where it all began: the people, the voices left behind, the families who still wait for answers. We'll reflect on why this mystery continues to captivate the world, and why, perhaps, it always will. Night falls across the Atlantic, and the sea begins to whisper again. The waves roll gently against the invisible borders of the Bermuda Triangle, a place that has haunted human imagination for centuries. Beneath the moonlight, the ocean looks calm, harmless even, a mirror of silver and blue. But those who know its stories understand that beauty here hides something deeper, something ancient, something that refuses to be explained. Every year, thousands of travelers cross through this region without incident. Cruise ships glide across the same waters where others once vanished. Planes soar above the same skies that swallowed Flight 19. And yet, every few years, the silence returns. A signal lost. A vessel overdue. A family waiting at the harbor for news that never comes. The world has changed, but the pattern hasn't. It is easy to see the Bermuda Triangle as a myth, an invention of frightened sailors or imaginative authors. But to the families who have lost loved ones there, it's no story. It's an open wound in the map of the Atlantic. Somewhere out there, beneath miles of dark water, lie hundreds of ships and planes, each with its own story, frozen in time, untouched, unknown. Search teams have tried again and again to find them. Satellites have scanned the ocean floor. Submarines have mapped trenches and ridges. They found wrecks, yes, but rarely the ones they were looking for. It's as if the Triangle chooses which secrets to reveal and which to keep. And yet, despite the mystery, life goes on. Tourists sail through its heart every day. Fishermen cast their nets in its waters. Pilots trace its skies without fear. The Triangle has become both a warning and a challenge, a symbol of humanity, as endless curiosity. Why do we keep returning to this mystery, even when logic offers explanations? Perhaps because the Bermuda Triangle represents something larger than lost ships and missing planes. It represents the edge of what we know, the point where science meets the infinite unknown. For generations, we've searched for meaning in the things we can't explain. Ancient people once looked at eclipses and thought the gods were angry. Sailors saw glowing lights in the sea and spoke of monsters. Today, we have data, satellites, science. Yet when we look at the Bermuda Triangle, we still feel the same shiver our ancestors did, the same awe, the same fear. Maybe it's not about the vanishings at all. Maybe it's about us, our need to believe that there are still mysteries left in a world we've mapped and measured to exhaustion. Because deep down, we don't want every question answered. We want wonder. We want to look at the horizon and imagine what lies beyond. The Bermuda Triangle gives us that. A reminder that the world still holds places untouched by certainty. Still, there are stories that linger, testimonies from those who made it out. One sailor recalled a moment when his compass spun wildly and the sea seemed to glow from beneath. Another described hearing a low humming sound that came from nowhere, like the ocean itself was singing. Pilots have spoken of strange clouds that appear in perfect circles, of aircraft lights flickering on radar only to vanish seconds later. Each account is different, but they all share one thing: a feeling of being somewhere not entirely of this world. Some scientists suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is simply a coincidence wrapped in myth. But coincidences rarely last for centuries, and myths, no matter how improbable, are often born from truth. There's a quiet power in not knowing. The very mystery that frustrates science is what gives the triangle its magic. Each unsolved case is another reminder that we are explorers on a vast, unpredictable planet, a planet that still keeps secrets from us. Imagine, for a moment, the last sight of those who vanished here. The sun setting over the horizon, the ocean, calm, endless, the gentle hum of an engine, the rhythmic pulse of waves. Then, silence. No explosion, no crash, just the vast, soundless deep. It's not fear that lingers there, but a kind of reverence. The sense that maybe, in some way, the sea doesn't take, it keeps. In that stillness lies the truth of the Bermuda Triangle. It isn't a place of evil. It's a reminder of nature's vastness and our place within it. We like to believe we've conquered the planet, that we can map every inch of land and sea. But the triangle laughs softly at that notion. It shows us that even in an age of satellites and science, mystery still breathes beneath the waves. When you stand on the shores of Florida or gaze out from a ship deck near Puerto Rico, you can feel it. That quiet hum of the unknown. It's as if the ocean remembers. Every gust of wind, every ripple in the water, carries the echoes of those who disappeared. And so the legend lives on. Books are written, movies made, scientists debate, but the truth remains just out of reach. Like a ship disappearing into fog. Perhaps that's how it's meant to be. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only respected. The Bermuda Triangle isn't just a place on a map. It's an idea, a symbol of all that we haven't yet understood. And maybe, deep down, that's why it fascinates us so much. Because if everything were known, the world would lose its magic. So, the next time you look at a map and trace that triangle between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, remember, that space isn't empty. It's filled with stories, secrets, and the unending heartbeat of the sea. And as long as there are waves and winds and wanderers who dare to chase the horizon, the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle will live on. What do you think really happens out there, in those silent, shifting waters? Is it science, coincidence, or something far beyond our understanding? Whatever you believe, the ocean knows the truth. It's been keeping it for centuries.